In this video, we're going to discuss how we go about and create controls for our arms, our clavicle. We're also going to be creating swivel controls for our elbows and our knees. Alright, so let's begin. And again, we've been using these kind of default spline controls, and again, I'm just kind of using these for the sake of efficiency, but you can go ahead and again use whatever controls you feel like for this. So why don't we start with a clavicle? Okay, so I'll do Control D here. Alright, and I want to snap it to this right here. So while holding V, let's go ahead and snap it. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and rotate this 190 degrees. Okay, and again, just like we did with our controls in the on the head, these don't have to again, this clavicle control, it can even be here, or I can kind of move it out as long as the pivot is right where it needs to be. So again, as soon as I'm going to change the orientation of this one a little bit, just go to the top viewport for that. Alright, something along the lines of that. And again, basically the idea is that I select this control, and when I move the orientation of it, or the rotation, this bone is going to follow along based on the axis of this control. So again, based on that, if I want it again, I'm going to change the orientation of this guy a little bit. So let's again, I can change the location of this control, and basically make sure that my pivot is kind of still centered to this bone. So even though we're going to move the object somewhere around this location, the pivot's going to be centered here. So I can move it out here. Again, I'm going to turn on my body for this, just to kind of get an idea where it's going to be. Another thing I want to make sure of too is that I'm kind of moving this along the normal average. Okay, so I'm going to move it up a little bit up here, and I'm going to scale it down. Again, I don't need it to be that big. Alright. So this is going to be my clavicle control. So then again, hold D to affect the pivot, and V to be able to snap it back to here. Okay. Alright. So now again, the pivot of this object is going to be kind of located at the origin of the root of this bone. So if I rotate this, it's going to be based on that pivot. So the next step would let's see, we want to basically mirror this over. Okay, so again, many ways that you can do this. You could try and recreate the same process that we just did here. I'm gonna go ahead and freeze transform this guy right here. Alright, and one of the tricks that I like to use, it's basically when you have an object like this, it has its own pivot, and if you were to group this object, the group would have pivot of its own. And again, this is something that's going to come into play later on, but just kind of keep that in mind, that when we group an object, basically it has it's going to have two pivots: its original pivot and the one for the group. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go ahead and do I believe it's Control G, the shortcut. All right. So again, notice in my outliner, sorry, that this control, the one that is going to be my clavicle control, now it's inside a group. All right, and the pivot of it is actually at 0, 0, 0. So if I wanted to mirror this object, and now that I would select a group, right, because the pivot is at 0, 0, 0, and I will duplicate the group. All right, and I would select the group and scale at a negative 1 in the x-axis to flip over that control. Okay, so now again, I just mirror this control on the other side, and it's basically as long as everything's kind of mirrored correctly, it's basically in the same exact position as the other one, and it's sharing similar pivot as far as the location of it. But again, I only group them so I can actually have access to this 0, 0, 0 pivot. But now that basically they are where they need to be, I can just select them both and just go ahead and ungroup them. So let's just ungroup, and that didn't work. Edit, ungroup. Alright, for some reason it's not working, but I could technically just go into this group and just pretty much drag it out of there, which works just as well. Same with the other control, and then I can just select the groups and delete them. So alright, that worked pretty well. And I want to go in here and just label the CTRL. This is going to be clavicle underscore left. Okay, and this one's gonna be same but for the right, underscore R. Okay, now if you want to kind of color code your controls in here, just kind of make it easier for you to kind of maybe keep things organized and things like that. If, for instance, one of the things that you see a lot with rigs is that they usually do, they color code things that are supposed to be for the left have one color, things that are supposed to for the right are a different color. So let's say that for the right side I would stick to blue, and maybe for or green, again, just so it's different from the controls that I have in the center. So I will go into my attribute editor to change that. Let's see if I can find the right. I'm going to, okay, I'm under this tab in the attribute editor, not in the R shape but in the actual control, clavicle underscore R. I'm going to go into display, and under drawing overrides, if I click on enable overrides, I can go into color here and actually pick a different color. So again, for the right side I'm going to pick a green, so now everything on this side is going to be a green, and then on the left side I want everything to be red. Alright, so again, everything kind of going down the center, it's going to be blue, or again, it can be pretty much any color you want, and everything that's going to be on the right is going to be green, everything that's going to be on the left is going to be red. So let's just and again, that's just my choice, you can do whatever you want with yours. Alright, so now that we have the clavicle controls, we want to do an Orient Constraint. Alright, so again, select the control, select the actual joint. We're going to go to Orient, make sure that the offset is on, and apply. Alright, and again, I can just go in here and test it out. It's working pretty good. Going to do the same thing here. Select the control, select the joint, apply, test it. Alright, so that worked pretty well. Alright, so again, let's just continue. Let's do a control for the wrist here. Control D. And I'm just going to hold V here to just kind of snap it here to my wrist. And I want to rotate this 90 degrees. Okay. Then I'm going to scale this down. Alright. So we need to do a couple of things here. We need to have a control for the arm. Alright, and basically what we're going to end up doing here, it's let's see, what are we doing here? Okay, we're going to apply again, let's see, we're going to apply a point constraint to the control, alright, from the IK chain to the actual control. So basically wherever we move it is gonna pretty much just kind of follow along, and then we're gonna do, and we're gonna take the wrist bone right here, and we're gonna orient constrain it to this one, so we're actually able to control the rotation of the wrist as well. So this control is pretty much going to be able to control not only the movement of the arm but also the rotation of the wrist. Okay, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. So okay, again, I want to go ahead and take this guy right here. We want to freeze transform it, and let's just call this one CTRL wrist underscore left. Alright, and we can kind of mirror this over the same way we mirror the other one. I'm gonna hold on that for a second. The next thing I need to do, and before I start kind of assigning any constraints, I want to make a duplicate of this control. Alright, and I want to make a control for the swiveling of the arm, and by swivel I mean when you select the IK chain, we have this this twist, and it just basically controls this. Okay, so you know, if you don't want to go into the root every time, into the IK chain every time, and animate that yourself, you can have a control out here that's going to control that by just following the movement of it. And for that one, we're going to be using a pole vector constraint. So just like we did with the eyes, again, remember that we had to use a point constraint to be able to kind of center it to the specific area where we wanted it to, you know, the joints to point, so that the eyes wouldn't snap. We kind of have to do something similar here. And again, sometimes, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because one of the things that happens when you have an IK chain and you apply the pole vector control is that and again, I need to kind of maybe go in here and show you what's happening here. When you select the IK handle, IK control, this is basically the orientation of it. All right, so when you're seeing that right there, it's basically that. What it's going to do, if you have a control like this one and you apply a vector control, it's basically going to take that orientation, it's going to make sure that it's aimed in the same direction as this. But if this is not kind of positioned correctly, what it does is that it kind of adjusts so it actually it kind of it follows the direction of this guy. So we need to make sure that our control has the same orientation as this, as our IK chain to be able for it to kind of twist correctly. And I mean, I'm warning you right now. We might not see a little bit of a snap on this. And again, it just kind of depends on how you kind of set up your bones and stuff. Even if I see a snap, the arms, it might be just something a little bit, it's at least for this example, it's not really that big of a deal. But ideally, we don't want it to snap. And again, we're gonna see the same problem here when we do the swiveling of the knee. And with this one, this one you definitely want to make sure it doesn't snap, or at least doesn't snap as much. But let's just see what happens. So again, just like we did with the control for the eye, we're gonna select 2 points. These 2 points for me, or for us, is gonna be our shoulder bone or joint here, and our wrist. So I select those 2 first, and then third, I'm gonna kind of select the control. I probably want to zero this out first. I'm gonna have to maybe freeze transform it a couple times. Select it one more time, and then just apply a point. Alright, so now this guy's kind of at the perfect center of this, and hopefully it has the same orientation as our IK chain. Okay, so just like we did before, when you have a constraint that you don't need, you can go here into your outliner, find the control that has the constraint, click on the constraint, and just kind of get rid of it if you don't need it. So at this point, we're just going to move this guy back. Okay. Alright. And again, we're going to zero this out. So let's just freeze transform it again. So this is freeze transform, this is freeze transform. And now that we have these kind of ready, I want to maybe go in here and make sure that I set them the right color, which for this side is red. Okay, let's do the same thing with this one. Alright, now let's just kind of mirror them over. So we can use the same technique that we used for the clavicles. So I'm going to select them both. I'm going to do Control G to group them. Alright, and again, our pivot is going to be back at 0, 0. The group's pivot is at 0, 0, 0. The pivots of the actual objects are still with them. But if we select the group, they have a new pivot of the group. So we're going to do a duplicate. Alright, then we're going to select that second group, go into our channel, and go and flip the group. Alright, and now that that's been kind of copied over, we can just kind of get rid of our groups that we don't need. So, and we want to label this correctly. Because that was the wrist. This is going to be, let's just call it the elbow control, because that's basically what it is. Same with these here. Again, let's just kind of take them out from that group, delete that, and this one's going to be wrist right, and this one's going to be elbow right. Label that. Okay, and for these we kind of need to go in here and kind of change the color. Alright, and these guys are going to be green, and again, that's just my choice. You can do pretty much whatever you want with your controls. If you're more comfortable using specific shapes that you've created, or if you want to use helpers, again, you can do that. The only thing you got to make sure of is that you kind of zero things out, so whenever you're animating, you can go back to your default position if need to. Alright, so now that we have both sides, and again, let's just change the color of this guy right here. Why is it not changing? Alright, there we go. Now we need to go in here and apply a couple of constraints. So let's begin with the wrist. So again, I'm gonna do save now. Let's just say save as 04. Alright, and again, I want to be able to come back to this point, so let's just do a save as again, 04 underscore 00, or you can also do backup and just kind of save backup for between the two. However you choose to do that. Alright, so let's start with the IK. Alright, so we're gonna point constraint the IK handle to the wrist control. Alright, so I'm gonna select the control. Let's just minimize this so I can select the IK handle next. IK handle, and then let's just look at our settings for point constraint, and I'm going to maintain the offset so my joints don't snap, so apply. Alright, and if I go in here and test this out, it's basically going to follow along the control. Alright, so let's just go ahead and do the same on this side. So control, IK chain, point constraint, test it out. Alright, nice. Alright, so then the next thing we gotta do is this elbow ones, and again, this one's gonna be a little tricky because these elbows are gonna snap a little bit. So let's just see if it actually works. So, oh wait, but before we move, again, one of the things that you gotta notice, we're not finished with the wrist, okay? Because again, the control is kind of the IK chain is following the control, but there's nothing controlling the wrist right now. Okay, if we turn this is not really controlling that, and if we don't do anything about it, then we're gonna have to go directly to the joint to be able to animate the wrist like this. So what we're gonna do, select the control, and we're gonna select the wrist here, and we're gonna do not a point constraint, but we're gonna do an Orient Constraint. So basically the rotation of the wrist control is going to control the rotation of our wrist. So again, maintain offset, apply, and if we come in here and check this out, again, it's going to be moving with it, and if we go into rotation, it's going to be affecting the rotation of our wrist. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that on the other side since we're at this. So control, joint, Orient Constraint, apply, and let's just kind of test it out real quick. Alright, so that's working perfect. Let's move on to the elbow controls, and again, I'm just going to do a Control S to save this point. So we're going to select the elbow control, then we're going to select the IK handle, alright, and we're going to switch to this pull vector right here. Okay, and let's just go ahead and apply it. Okay, and again, you saw that there was a little bit of a snap. Again, I tried center as best as I could, but sometimes it's just not gonna be perfect. But that little snap is not really gonna affect much, and as you can see, this control is not affecting the swiveling of our elbow here. So I'm gonna do the same here. So I'm gonna select this control, this IK chain, apply it. Again, you're gonna see a little bit of a snap. Alright, and because of things like that, it's another reason why you want to maybe start the skinning process kind of early, so it doesn't things like that don't kind of mess with the position of the bones and what's affected and things like that. Now, so that takes care of our arms. Alright, okay, so we can manipulate a clavicle again, if you want to parent your wrist to this so it kind of follows along, you're kind of welcome to do that. Okay, and again, I think I made a mistake here, because I didn't freeze transform these guys. Alright, and let's just see if I can do it right now. If not, I'm gonna have to maybe repeat this process here. Let's see. Alright, so again, that's one of the problems with, again, not freeze transforming. And again, you notice what happens if I kind of need to go back to 0. Now I need to keep into account that this is you know, this is not correct, because again, the constraints are not you know, this wasn't zeroed out and I wasn't careful about it. So that's one of the problems. And again, I could maybe try and go into the process of let's see. And if you look at my IK handle here, you're seeing that it has a couple of constraints. There's the point and the pole vector. Okay. So again, if I wasn't, based on what I just did, again, it wasn't correct. So I need to make sure to correct that. So I'm going back to this IK handle that I created, and I'm going to get rid of those constraints. Alright. Alright. So now they're not really controlling any of this. Alright. And I think you might still be controlling the rotation of this, but I'm gonna do the same with this joint right here. I'm gonna find it. All right, and again, everything's under our control global, and just need to find the right joint. It's joint 24. Okay, so it's this guy, and if we go right into it, we're going to find that it has that orientation constraint right there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it. Okay, so now the orientation is not really affecting that either. So again, to correct this error, I'm going to go in here, modify freeze transform this, freeze transform this. Okay, so again, even if you make a mistake, sometimes you can actually again, because everything's kind of based on a hierarchy, you can actually go in there, find you know, what you want to kind of correct, and just get rid of the constraints and just kind of do it one more time. So now that I've freeze transformed these correctly, not a big deal. Again, I can just select this guy right here, the control, sorry, just minimize my pivot here. Select the IK for the wrist, and we're going to be doing a point constraint for this one. So again, just want to make sure that I maintain the offset. Apply. Alright. And I'm also going to select the control, the wrist, and do an Orient Constraint. Alright, so now this is back at controlling the movement of my arm and also the rotation of my wrist. Okay, and we're just gonna get back to I also want to go in here, okay, and I want to apply that pole vector. Okay, again, one more time. So select this control, select the IK handle, pole vector, and then apply it again. And okay, now this is correct. So not big of a deal. What I was trying to get to explain before I found by mistake and I had to correct it was that now we need to, now it's kind of up to you to kind of decide where these controls kind of have to go, because right now they are outside of our global control and they need to be parented to something. So you probably want your clavicles to be parented to your chest, because they kind of need to follow along with that. So and select the child, select the parent, and parent it. Alright, so again, if I move this, it's going to follow along. We want to do the same thing with the other one. So child, parent. Okay. Now the the wrist is something that you might not want to assign to anything. I mean, you still need it to actually be part of the global control, but you don't want it. You don't necessarily want it to follow any other controls that you have in your body. Because, for instance, let's say you have an animation where your character is maybe, has his hands on the table, and he's kind of moving around, and you want the hands to stay still. But if you have the controller parent to something, it's going to follow along. So then you're going to have to kind of counter animate to kind of make sure that it stays in place, and that could be a tedious process. So things like the wrist and the elbows controls, those you want to make sure that are parented to your global control, but not necessarily parented to anything else, so they can actually stay in place if you need them to. So I'm gonna go ahead and select these guys. Alright, and we could group them and just call them maybe arm controls or something like that. I'm just gonna leave them as is, and I'm just gonna drag them into my global control. So if I do that and I click here, I'm still gonna be able to scale my character, no problem, and everything's gonna follow along. Alright, so as long as these are parented to our main control, again, they don't have to follow along what these are doing. Again, just in case of an animation like the one I just described, but they need to be part of the global control so they follow along. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to cover in this video is how to set up a swivel control for our knees. Alright, so again, I'm going to go ahead and do a save here. Let's just do another save as, go back to 4. Let's replace it. Alright, and then just do another save as and go back to my backup. Alright. So, alright. And again, this is going to be the swivel for the knee is basically the same as what we did with the arm. We need some sort of control that's going to be, it could kind of be like right here in front of the knee. Is going to be controlling the swivel of this leg. Okay, so again, let's just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate of this one. I'm going to call this one CTRL underscore knee underscore L for left. Alright, scale it down a bit, change the color to red. Okay, so let me have my body here. Just go channel right, hide it. Okay, so I'm going to select this, and I'm pretty much going to be doing the same thing that I did here, so I could find the right location for this one. I'm going to use the root of my leg joint, and I'm going to be using my ankle joint to find the exact kind of middle of these two, so that when I apply a when I apply the vector constraint, it doesn't snap out of place. And again, hopefully this one we don't see snapping too bad. And again, sometimes it kind of works, sometimes it doesn't. But let's just go ahead and do it. So select the root of the leg, okay, the ankle, okay, and then we're going to apply a point constraint. Oops. Select the control, sorry, and then the point constraint is going to be assigned to the control, so it's going to be, should be right in the center of it. Alright, didn't do something right. Select here, this one, point. Okay, my mistake was that I changed this to maintain offset. Again, if you have maintain offset checked on, it basically is gonna constraint to this, but it's going to basically stay in place. So we actually want it to actually move to where it's supposed to kind of be, and now it's in that position. Okay. So again, we don't need the constraint at this point, so I'm going to go into my outliner, select it, and just kind of get rid of it. I'm going to select my control. I want to have this kind of rotate 90 degrees like this, and I'm going to move it forward based on the normal average. Okay, somewhere front here. Okay, and it's just again a little control that's going to be this is going to control the swivel over knee. Alright, so now we want to take this controller, pretty much going to copy it over to the left, and again you could go through the process of just kind of doing the same procedure of applying a point constraint, or you could just mirror over using the group technique that I've been showing. So I'm gonna show you how to do the point constraint one more time, again, just to kind of make sure you understand how that works. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to freeze transform this one before I forget. This guy, again, we need to change the color code to green. So I'm going to select this, the root over leg, then I'm going to select the ankle. Okay. Then I'm going to select the control that I want to center to that, and I'm again point constraint. I want to make sure that my offset is not checked. Apply to the center, and then just kind of move it forward to where the other control is. All right. And again, I could very well just grouped this one and kind of mirrored over. It would have pretty much be the same location, because this is kind of mirrored leg joints. So let's just select them both again, just freeze transform them. Alright, and then for the knee swivel, let's again, I'm gonna select this guy, the control, sorry, and then I'm gonna select the actual IK handle, and I'm gonna be assigning it the same pull vector. Okay, just apply. Okay. And I think we just saw a little bit of a shift, but again, it's not that significant. So same thing with this one. Oops. Wrong one. Again, I think I made a mistake here. Let's just get rid of that point constraint. Oh, okay. And alright, I did a couple of steps here, so let's just redo this one more time. Right. Okay. Let's just select these, freeze transforming again. Okay, make sure that they don't have any constraint to them. Let's just do this one more time. Do a pull vector. Okay, select this control and this guy, and then pull vector. Okay, so now we have these controls that do the knee swivel. Okay. Alright, so alright, so now again in this video we covered how you go about creating controls for your clavicle, for your arms, for your elbow swivel, for your wrist, and we also created controls for our knee swivel. Alright, so So in our next video, I'm just gonna go ahead and save this for myself. I'm gonna go ahead and we need to still do a couple of things before we finish here. We need to create a control system to be able to create a foot roll, again for the purpose of a walk cycle. And I'm going to go in here and I'm also going to create a customized control to be able to control the rotation of all of my fingers on both hands. So alright, so this concludes the arms and the knee swivel.